Well, hello again, folks. Welcome to another What is Ken Up To? This is sort of part three to my May garden, although by the time this one posts, it's probably going to be a few days into June. Want to show you what I'm doing in the raised bed. I was able to get to building my trellises. You can see some behind you there, and also the cages for the tomatoes. I'm going to show you those, and then I'm going to show you the seeds I'm going to be putting in. So the last time I showed you the raised bed here, I did not have the tomato cages built or the trellises. Just quickly, the tomatoes are doing really well. They're probably, 2.5 feet tall. And over here, this pepper here, which is the giant Marconi, that's doing well, a little bit slower growing, but that's how it is. My habanero, I did have to trim down. That was from last year, but I got some new growth on it. Unfortunately, the Fresno pepper just dried out. It didn't do well, but then again, I've had that one for about 3 years, so I'll get another pepper. I like the Fresnos and put one in. So here are the tomato cages, and then behind it are the trellises that I'm using for the beans and cucumbers. Now, what I did is use a lot of scrap wood. All the 1x2s here, I had off old trellises. Some of them were over 10 years old. They were behind my shed. I got those out and took what I could use. Was enough for all of this. I did buy the 2x2s you see here. And I did happen to have some spray paint on hand. So I made the tomatoes green over here and back here for the beans and cucumbers. I did red. That's so they'll stand out a lot easier. When you grow green beans, sometimes it's hard to see them within all the leaves. And then I did buy a cord here. That is pretty much a clothesline cord. It's just something nice and sturdy for the beans and cucumbers to grow on. And I just, put them through these little eye hooks here and strung them up and down. So that is a nice and strong and steady. And I do want to tell you, when it comes to the tomato cages, you've seen those wire ones. They're worthless. They really are. The reason is the tomatoes start to grow and they go up over the sides of the wires, and they start to bend out like this and actually start to break. So by using something sturdy like this, it gives the tomatoes a lot of support. They're easy to build. I would tell you, if you use those cages, what I've done in the past is I wrap them with that pipe insulation, that 1-inch pipe insulation, and that helps out a little bit. I really don't like the look of that, so this is definitely an upgrade. So this is what I have for my seeds this year. I want to show you how I store my seeds. I put them in a container like this. I always date them, so that way I know when they were used last. If I use them after that first date, I'll date them again just so I know. And then I just make these little categories here so they're easy to find. I also have a database. I use AnyList for that, just so I know what I have on hand. And here's what I'm going to be planting this year. We have got some chives. Those will go into the vertical garden. Those actually are seeds from a couple years ago. They still should be pretty good. We got some of the Space Maker cucumbers, which I grew last year, and in the past I've grown them quite a bit. Also some pickling cucumbers, and you can see I've got a pack from last year and a few seeds left in that one, and then I got a new pack as well where I can make some pickles. We have the classic Blue Lake green beans, and that's a packet from a couple years ago. I also have the actual beans from there, the dried beans. When my green beans got too large to really eat, I just let them dry out and harvested the beans out of there. That's a great way to save a little money and reuse what you grew. These are the Oriental Wonder long beans. I think I grew these once in the past, so I want to try these again. And if you've never had the long beans, they have a wonderful, almost asparagus kind of flavor. Then, this is something new. I've never grown these before. These are called the Atomic Red Carrots. So I'm excited to try those. And then over here, we got pretty much the standard Danvers carrots. And I got a couple packets of those. I got one from last year that I opened. So I needed another one. So here's what I also have. I've got a little bowl here. I just use that because I pour the seeds out into the bowl first. and then kind of put them all around. Of course, we got some tags here, scissors to open the packets. And this is a marker that I like to use. This is called the garden marker. It lasts longer than a Sharpie outside when the tags get wet. The reason I got the sticks here is when I grow carrots, I like to kind of string up an area around them just so I know until they begin to sprout exactly where they are. In case I want to plant something else, I don't plant something right where I put the carrots. So, that's why I do that. The pruner so I can cut the sticks here, and then that's just the twine. By the way, what these come from is we have a fig plant that self grew. We never planted it. It's behind our spa. It gets out of hand. It gets like 8, 9 feet tall. Really doesn't produce much figs, and when they do, they're so high up we can't get them. So, I use these, and as needed, I got some long ones here. I'll use them as supports, and again, a good way to reuse what you have and not spend a lot of money. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is put the seeds in. You don't really need to see that. It's just, putting them in as each seed needs to go in as far as depth. And I'll explain that after I get them in. And then once that's all done, kind of show you an overview of everything. And away we go. So I got all the seeds in. Now you saw what I did with the carrots. We got the Danvers on that side and the Atomic Reds on the other. I kind of sprinkled the seeds on from high up. For you cooks out there, you're familiar with that. When you're seasoning something with salt, you want to hold it high up over the meat or whatever you're seasoning. And that way I just get an even distribution. I don't want to fool around with rows when it comes to carrots. And then I put on some topsoil. They only go down a 1/4 inch. So I put them down first, I pat them down, and then I add just a little bit of soil on the top to cover them by about a 1/4 inch or so. Here are those strings I told you about. I like to set that up. That way, until the carrots start to sprout, I kind of know not to plant anything else in that area because I still got a little bit of room left. And over here, of course, we got the green beans. And I used both the ones I had got in 2025 and then ones that I grew, and then I took the seeds out of the year before. So I planted one of each just to see what happens. Here we have the long beans right there. And then we got the 2 cucumbers, the space makers and the pickling cucumbers. Now those, they all went down about an inch or so. One of the cucumbers, the one from last year, those those pickling ones only said a 1/2 inch. The other one said an inch. So I kind of split the difference. I used a few of each seed. So yeah, looking pretty good. Now, one thing I always suggest to do ahead of time, especially when you're putting down seeds directly into soil or even in little trays, always moisten the soil first. That is especially true for small seeds like carrots. And that is because if you put them in the dry soil and then you go into water them in, they're just going to go down too low. And then they're just not going to sprout right. Well, there you have it. Pretty simple, really. And, I like to plan things out a little bit, maybe a few weeks before I decide what I'm going to plant this year. I kind of think it through, and then I either find the seeds, see what I have already with me, and then if need be, I order them like I did this time. I ordered a few, and I also had some from the previous years, and that's why I kind of keep a list. I can always check back on it and see exactly what I have. But a small little raised bed like this, goes pretty easy. Sometimes I tend to overcrowd them. Hopefully I didn't do it this year, although I have 2 kinds of beans and 2 kinds of cucumbers. They kind of grow the same way. The 2 beans, the 2 cucumbers. I'm not too worried about that. 2 kinds of carrots, and of course the tomatoes. And then I'll eventually have 3 peppers. So I think I have room. I'll try and get them in. And the other tip, I showed you the tomato cages I made and the trellises. Uh, and a lot of that was old wood I had laying around. So, use what you have first. Buying garden stuff is really expensive. Remember, the goal there is to maybe spend your money on good quality seeds and or plants or whatever it might be to start out with, and not what you're using to grow them with. You can fashion anything you want as long as if you're making trellises, they can hold up whatever you're growing. Tomato cages, as I said, I don't like the wire ones at all. And if you buy fairly good ones online, they're very expensive. I mean, $30, $40. Don't do that. You can make your own, even if you don't have a saw or anything like that. You can fashion just like a teepee. I've seen that's done with just those one by one sticks you can find, and you fashion kind of like a teepee for at least the beans and the cucumbers. As long as it's strong, they will grow up on that. And as far as tomatoes go, you know what? If you don't want to get into the indeterminate tomatoes, those are the ones that grow for a length of time throughout the season. They need a lot of support. Then get the determinate ones, which basically grow as a fairly large bush, get you what you need, and then you get one crop over maybe about 6 weeks, and then you put in another one after that. So that's another tip for you. Well, I hope all the stuff that I showed you today helps you out, and I thank you for watching What Is Ken Up To. We'll see you next time.